welcome back to Oh the Humanities, our E3 specials. This one's covering Bethesda, and it's the group of shows that both ganglands and kids on the street, even rescue teams in mountainous regions are calling EBXUSN.
EBXUSN!
EBXUSN!
Wow, I didn't expect you to join in on that, Pad.
I saw it written in the sky by a plane smoke trail earlier.
Really?
Yep.
Did you see even planes?
That plane, it might have been crashing, but it definitely looked like EBXUSN.
Foley, I'm going to spike my cold brew, which isn't a euphemism.
What?
Yeah, cold brew. It's coffee that's brewed over 20 hours. It's less acidic than regular coffee. And in this case, I've got some sugar-free vanilla at the bottom and some cappuccino foam on the top, which when it drifts into the cold brew kind of dissolves and makes it look like a Guinness. But it's very refreshing, very nice.
Is it weird that I don't know whether you're a genius or a madman?
I do like messing with coffee science.
Yeah, no, go for it.
I love it.
Do you know what mysterious drink I've got this week?
Is it tea?
What I've done, right, is I've taken some ordinary tap water, some H2O from the tap, and I've placed it into my kettle. It's a kettle I bought from a shop a while ago. Boils the water out really nicely. When the kettle has boiled, I then put it into a cup with a bag. The bag is full of tea leaves, in fact, but the bag isn't open, it's sealed around the edge. And I let it sort of ferment a little bit, and I let the tea flavour soak in through the water. And then when that's finished, I remove the bag, add a brief smattering of cow juice, fermented cow juice, to the drink, mix it all up, and it has a lovely, refreshing brew. I call it tea.
No.
You need to work on the name.
It's not got the same snap that EBXUSN has got, is it?
No, or even kind of my drifting cappuccino cold brew. It's not really.
It is more evocative. Tea's kind of to the point, isn't it? You said you put it into a cup.
Yes.
A cup or a mug?
Well, it's actually in a mug, and the mug, in fact, says Mr. T on the side. And it's got bullet holes on the design, and the handle is, if you were to hold the mug so that your fingers were through the handle, it would look like a set of gold rings.
Now, see, we've got somebody who comes into work who I call Mr. T, and it does amuse me to think of him being in Rocky IV and like the A-Team. So you've got like the bits with the face man and all that kind of stuff, and it comes to the end, and instead of being like, ain't getting on no damn plane, it's large tea, 2 tea bags.
Well, this cup would suit really well.
Did you mean Rocky 3 there?
Rocky 3, yeah. Rocky 4 is
Dolph Lundgren,
Drago,
isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know. It's been a long time. Been a long time. Been watching
it's been a while.
Big Trouble in Little China today. What a film. What a film. So many times I just laughed out loud because of Kurt Russell is essentially playing John Wayne throughout all of it. And some of the catchphrases and the continual, like, it's almost video game like, oh look, somebody's been captured, oh let's go into an elevator, oh why are these numbers going downwards, are they Chinese, no we're going into a water trap, oh we've been pulled out, we've been put into like wheelchairs and we're beaten up, oh I've tipped the wheelchair over and I've got my blindfold off but don't tell anybody. It's just this like constant like rooms, and I loved it to pieces. My eyes were falling a little bit heavy at a certain point because my sleep pattern has been wonked by the likes of this here conference. So I had a little kip midway through, but what a bonkers film! And there's the script was adapted by W.D. Richter, who directed The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension, which was like, oh, that's cool. And it's got John Carpenter's directed it, and it's got that amazing sort of John Carpenter synth feel across the soundtrack as well. And yeah, proper into this.
Yeah.
Nice.
They don't make them like that anymore.
That's the thing. Like there was a bit towards the start where Jack Burton was driving his Optimus Prime like rig into this sort of Chinese market, and I know in the modern day it'll all be like massive strings and stuff like that, and it was just like ting ting ting, like 80s sort of keyboards and like down out, and I was like, oh, that's the best. But somebody recommended They Live to me afterwards, and I might end up going across like a lot of John Carpenter stuff after this.
Yeah.
I've got the taste in my bones. I've got the bit between my teeth. I'm snarling for a podcast. Snarling for a podcast that's back on track. Bethesda. Did you have, James Carter, what is out of Cane and Rinse? Did you have any expectations of the Bethesda conference before you went in?
Well, last year I thought their conference was solid, if not spectacular, in terms of how they presented it. It was kind of like, for a first effort, they didn't really do much wrong. They presented it pretty efficiently, pretty well, I thought. And so I just kind of wanted to see more of that, really. If you're not going to go sort of Ubisoft full on, just feather pink boa and dancing and all sorts, then present your games, make them the centre of attention, and kind of get yourself off stage and out the way of them. I think the one thing that not concerned me, but obviously last year they had Doom to show. That's now been and gone. They announced Fallout 4 for 6 months hence. That's now been and gone. So kind of what was going to be their big announcement. And I think that kind of is a problem with this show that we'll get into in a bit. They didn't really have any kind of single big thing to build the rest of the show around. But no, just interested to see what they were going to do, because obviously they felt that last year went well and they could still hold a show together this year. So,
What about yourself, my ginger witch?
Very similar to James, actually. I thought last year's show was like really well put together. Like, it was solid. The whole showing off Fallout for it then to come out 6 months later was brilliant. Like, really, really well presented. I thought the stuff they showed was good. They didn't show an awful lot last year, but what they did show was meaty. And I genuinely think Todd Howard is quite good at doing that sort of presentation. Like, he actually had an actual flair for it, and he wasn't nervous or reading from a script. He was just talking to the crowd, and it felt quite natural for him to be doing that. He's quite charismatic.
And he never seems overly media trained either, so he hits that sweet spot of seeming genuine and seeming knowledgeable.
He's got that seeming sort of Adam Boyce-ness about him, that whilst he's incredibly professional and he can deliver the message, he's kind of in on the joke as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I'm sure he made a joke last time about buying tat for the Fallout 4 limited edition and stuff, and everybody
Plastic
just
tat.
laughed.
But ours is the best plastic tat.
Yeah, everybody just laughed with him, and I think that's pretty cool. There's a lot of people at these conferences that can be very full of themselves, and if anything sort of puts them off their patter or the next step, that they can kind of get a little bit snotty, or it can knock them off their run. So,
but going to like expectations for this show, like I'm looking at my notes I wrote down for the pre-show we did before E3. And all I've got written down is Fallout 4 DLC, Skyrim Remaster, and Dishonored 2. That was all I could think of for Bethesda, really.
Well, you're 3 for 3 on what was in the show. So.
And they were all kind of like, they were pretty safe bets, I thought, as well. Like, I don't think... Sure. Like, I mean, again, we'll get to it, but I don't think they had that big hit this year. I was expecting them to bring out something like, boom, we're making Elder Scrolls 6?
I think the issue is simply that those games take... And Skype has stopped.
Carry on.
We're all out of James. We're so lost without him. Bringing him back. Something.
Maybe he just hates us.
Can't say I blame him.
James?
James.
I'm not editing this out. James?
Hello.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, sir.
Skype died on me, but obviously I left my audio file going.
Hooray.
Paddy will edit it out.
I'm not editing shit. Good joke.
Yeah, we'll pass it through that remove gap thing that everybody else uses, and it'll be fine. It'll just seem like you were back in a second, because we use that all the time.
Getting a tea. I'm back.
Hopefully that won't happen again. But yeah.
We'll see how it goes. So I didn't expect anything massive. I wanted something from them, but I don't think I got it this year. Not to say that it wasn't a solid show, it just wasn't a very inspiring one for me. But we'll get to that. What about you, CJ? That's your name.
I enjoyed last year's quite a bit, and I think that was a lot of that was down to Todd Howard, because I was just desperately impressed with the man, and I hadn't really seen him before. it was a good profiling showcase for Bethesda, because whilst they've always seemed like a fan orientated company, I've not ever noticed them as I don't know, presenting themselves in this kind of way. But we should chat on the individuals as we went along. But again, it was just a conference that I was curious about, rather than kind of having high expectations for, but wondering what might emerge.
Well, forgive my cynical hat for the first, certainly 2 on what we're going to be talking about. I'll try and explain further as we get there.
Well, let's see if you can get your oats with Quake.
Good God.
That's questionable.
So Quake Champions, I don't know anything about Quake other than that it was the specialist breakfast of PC nerds back in the day, who loved it and were all kind of bowled over by that's another breakfast pun.
Good God.
The announcement. Everybody seems to be really happy about it, and the guy that came on stage sort of was talking unlocked frame rates and really speaking to those sort of people that have PC, rigs.
Mm-hmm. That's not a breakfast pun.
No, it wasn't. I didn't really think of that. Let's all jam. No, people have jam and rice pudding, don't they?
Jam and toast for breakfast. I'll go with it. Yeah.
Oh God. Thank you for asking me.
These jokes are going over a bit, Frosty.
It's oh God.
Quake.
If there's anything that our audience expects, it's awkward silences. That's why we don't do the truncate silence thing. Did you know that truncate silence was invented by an elephant? Our listeners are just like...
They might think that we actually edit the silences in. These are all legit.
Yeah. Let's space this out a bit.
Quake. I haven't played Quake. Who's played Quake? I've not played a Quake. James Carter, have you played Quake?
Yes. So Quake.
What is Quake? What is it? The way I see Quake as an
Quake
outsider, it's like shut up. It's like Unreal Tournament, but for people that think Unreal Tournament is for wussy girls.
It's okay. People who are really into arena shooters will tell you that it's nothing like Unreal Tournament, but for the purposes of this conversation, it is Unreal Tournament.
Okay.
Is that the new dressing, or kind of the older version? Were they sort of, I don't know, stable mates in that regard? Or?
They were very much stable mates. To my mind, apologies to anyone who's listening who's currently tearing their hair out and biting down on their knuckles, but
the guys from You Died are currently killing themselves.
After Doom formalised, in many ways, Wolfenstein as well, what first-person shooting could be, and Doom introduced deathmatch, arena shooters came out of that kind of thing. So Quake, Unreal Tournament are late 90s arena shooters, which are really fast-paced, really frantic, open levels, where you can either, obviously, team-based matches and individual sort of death matches and whatnot, but it's just ridiculous weapons, and Halo multiplayer came from these, arguably. Not arguably, actually. Inarguably, I would say. So that's what this is. The thing that struck me, and I think it's telling in the name, Quake Champions, is that this was a CG trailer that immediately I thought, these characters are all distinguished from one another visually, and they all have different abilities, and Overwatch came out a couple of months ago and everyone really, really likes that, and you could probably knock together a CG trailer in a couple of months.
See, I had the other view. I saw the characters in this trailer and thought they just looked like standard beefy Unreal Tournament Gears of War dudes.
I am not saying that the characters shown in this stand up to, I don't know if you guys agree with me, the kind of exemplary silhouette based, this is Overwatch's characters, you know waifus. Exactly who all of them are, they have very distinctive look, etc. And they all look fairly appealing as character design.
Yeah, it's the Team Fortress design philosophy, isn't it? Like make them all visible from the silhouette. But Overwatch, they do it with waifus.
They do, yes. But no, this struck me, don't get me wrong, really glad to have Quake back as a game. And this struck me for reasons that I feel incredibly ashamed of due to the cynicism it displays. It just struck me as a bit of a Me Too on Overwatch. And that's probably a horrible thing to say, because maybe this has been in the works for a long time since they've had success with bringing Wolfenstein and Doom back. It's also not being made by id, as far as I'm aware, which, again, shouldn't be anything approaching damning towards this game, because Wolfenstein was brought back by Machine Games, who still managed to capture the original feel of those games despite not being the original developers or originally involved with it. They were fans of that game and made a heck of a Wolfenstein game. So,
well, let's lean into that tickle, because at the start they had sort of a little bit of a DOS screen that kind of
they sure did, yeah.
That was cool.
And amongst that, they got Wolfenstein 3D, New Order, Old Blood, and New Colossus. And whilst they didn't announce a new Wolfenstein, kind of everybody knows now that it's going to be called the New Colossus.
Or at least that's a project or code name for something that is on the way. They just wanted to tease that, didn't they? Because
I'd say that's pretty much a given, because you got the underscores after like New Order, Old Blood, between like the the
absolutely,
two and stuff. But,
it's chronological order of Wolfenstein games and asterisked out date for the release of that one. So that's
because they didn't give us New Colossus,
kind of
and they also didn't give us Evil Within 2, which a lot of people expected here. And I must admit, I thought that they might turn up in at least the Microsoft conference, both of those, and so I was quite surprised.
Well, I think with Wolfenstein, given Old Blood came out not that long ago, and given that apparently they've now got plenty of games, including ones we'll get to talk about, and Quake. I can see why maybe they held that, and maybe with the new Wolfenstein game they announce it either at a separate QuakeCon or something, although that would kind of be sort of creeping in on Quake.
They maybe
again.
trying not to pull an EA and release two quite similar-ish games nearby to each other.
Or indeed show CG trailers for multiple games. Would have been nice if EA had managed that, and then not release them for 2 years. So yeah, I think they could quite happily hold Wolfenstein until after they've already shown plenty of and released Quake potentially, and then kind of announce and get it out there pretty quickly. I think they've had a lot of success from announcing games and getting them out the door pretty shortly thereafter.
Now, with your suspicions on Quake and that trailer being maybe put together because of the success of Overwatch, we then followed with Elder Scrolls Legends card game, which
exactly, I'm cynical about it for exactly the same reason.
Yeah,
it screams Me Too card game, and again, Elder Scrolls, perfect example of a franchise that could be turned into a card game. High fantasy type stuff works, and there's plenty of other card games doing that. No reason why Bethesda shouldn't, but it looks an awful lot like, oh hey, that Hearthstone's quite popular, isn't it? Let's just
Did you look, I looked at that, and before I knew what game it was from, it's going to be Elder Scrolls, but nothing in the visual design of it screamed Elder Scrolls at me, though. Some of the cards they were showing, I was like, oh, here's a thing, and here's another thing, and here's another thing, and oh, apparently this is the Elder Scrolls. I didn't recognise anything. I feel like in a game like that, you want to trade on, sort of iconic armor sets, or like the dragons or something from Elder, or the guy with the horny hat, droopy dong hat, going Fusradar. There was no card with him on it, or something like that, like a Kashyyyk, the card like that. I didn't recognise. They might have been there, I might not have been paying attention, but I didn't get the visual, this is an Elder Scrolls game. It's just, here's a fantasy game and we're putting Elder Scrolls at the top. For me, anyway.
Yeah, no, for me as well, but then I've only played Skyrim in that series, so I wouldn't know what are the sort of incredibly well-known or incredibly typical characters, races, creatures from those
Droopy
worlds.
Droopy
Droopy Dong Hat, Skyrim and Skyrim only, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah,
so,
but he's like one of the big recognisable. Like you see him, you know where he's from.
Yeah.
I would even argue at this point with the Elder Scrolls, he's probably the most recognisable immediate figure.
Well, certainly to young audiences that maybe have only played Skyrim as well. As far as a dragon goes, that could be any fantasy game. I'm not sure the dragons in Elder Scrolls or Skyrim look massively distinctive versus other dragons. So,
no Dragon's Dogma. Whee!
I think this was the one where I was genuinely amused by a bit of a dichotomy where I kind of, when they said, "You play as the Moth Monk," and like I went, "What?" And I can imagine that somewhere across the internet somebody's going, "Fucking Moth Monk will rise again!" But yeah, I don't know.
And fair play to those people. I am sure Elder Scrolls Online still apparently doing well as far as the stats they brought up later.
I mean, Elder Scrolls people be crazy. I mean, we listened to a few of them on the Chomp Chain podcast. We love you. You know, and they're really into their Elder Scrolls, and I reckon they'll probably get into it really much. But for a casual fan, and for somebody who doesn't really like card games that much online, except one we'll get to on a later show, it didn't grab me.
No, it didn't grab me either.
In a world of Hearthstone, why?
And
I mean, I know why, but why would you choose that over Hearthstone? I mean,
and I don't like the fact that I feel so cynical about these first two games because there are people for whom these are going to be massive games, and that's great. And I'm sure Bethesda they have proven time and again they have more than enough about them to make incredibly good games, even if they are versions of Overwatch and Hearthstone, and you know, and they're not the only ones or even the prototypical ones in those genres either.
So weak start, we think.
For me, a little bit.
I'd agree.
Nice to see Quake back, I have to say that. But yeah,
bit more meat on the bones would have been nice.
Glands kicked in, unfortunately.
So we had Todd Howard come out and talk to us a little bit more about Fallout 4, the success that they had, and there was Vault Tech and Contraptions, I think, DLC that they previewed, and Fallout Shelter coming to PC. Nothing really sticks in my mind.
I've still not played Fallout 4. Like, it's on the queue behind numerous other RPGs that I want to finish first.
Well, I think you've got Witcher in the meantime, but
Witcher.
Fallout 4's like crashed in price.
Yeah, totally.
And I genuinely can't understand why it's hit the prices it's hit so quickly, other than the fact that maybe everybody bought it in October-ish last year, and everybody's trading it in at the same time. There's just too many copies knocking around.
That and also it actually behooves Bethesda to start dropping the price when they start selling DLC. Entice people to buy the game, selling the DLC on top of that. So Far Harbor was also brought up in this, which has just come out or is about to come out. It's kind of their horror-themed single-player, story expansion. But yeah, the others were to do with the base building and stuff, I think.
I thought the Vault Tech pack was a brilliant idea. Like, build your own vault. Like, that's wonderful. Absolutely, that sounds really fun. I thought the Contraptions pack looked a little pointless. Make a Rube Goldberg machine. Why?
I should probably say I only played about 6 hours of Fallout 4 and kind of felt like it didn't have anything for me. Having played Fallout 3 and New Vegas kind of a lot. And the base building stuff was some of the stuff that interested me least. But I know from chatting to people on Twitter and from hearing people on podcasts or wherever else that actually there are quite a lot of players who really took to the settlement building and having the ability to make that more complex with contraptions or to make it vault themed with Vault Tech. Yeah, absolutely, that makes sense.
You can't deny that they're packing out that season pass, and if people jumped in there quickly.
This was the season pass that they increased in price, didn't they? But obviously gave everyone fair warning, which again just goes to Bethesda's desire to be open and candid and feel confident in their games, and well, they should.
Well, they've got the mods running now as well, haven't they, on it? So.
Mods came to Xbox One and certainly Xbox One. I'm not sure about PS4.
Yeah,
they're not on PS4 yet, I don't think.
I think they're saying that they're not working on PS4 as well as they worked on Xbox One at this point.
It is a Bethesda game.
Oh my god! But again, I mentioned Phil Spencer's Golden Box of Glory, and it's come on.
I heard it.
Love you, Connect. So
before we go, Shelter. Has anyone played Fallout Shelter?
It's supposed to be really good.
Yeah, I want to, but I know my phone will never handle it.
I thought the comment he made about there being more people have played Fallout Shelter than have played Fallout 4 is very interesting, because
really?
as he quite aptly pointed out, that means there are people who've played Fallout Shelter who probably have never heard of the bigger Fallout games, either the originals or the new
I suppose enough people download it. It zooms to the shot of the top of the "Hey,
Absolutely.
look at me, I'm new" chart, and people just download everything.
And of course it's free, so everyone can pick it up. And
True.
It sounds like people have had all sorts of fun. I'm not surprised they're expanding it, because I think what a lot of people did was, in fairly short time, max out their shelter and kind of then just start running maintenance on it. And if they can expand that and give people more to do and more to build and add on, etc., then all the better. Everything about the way they handled Fallout 4 just seems incredibly smart to me.
Now, Fallout 4 didn't fall victim to my culling and trading yesterday. Simply down to the fact that I bounced off Fallout 3 initially quite heavily, and then came back to it just in a moment of lull, and super clicked with it at that point. And I enjoyed the start of Fallout 4 very, very much indeed. It's a huge, and it brought tears to my eyes. The start of it did, and then I kind of a mixture of drifting with interest from the game and drifting on to other stuff. But I still think it's one of those games that if I've got nothing to do, that there might be a point where I just stick it in, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, and then it becomes sort of an obsession for a while. So it's sticking around.
Excellent.
It's weird with the next one, because I was never particularly a fan of Skyrim, but I got really affected when that music came in. It is an incredible piece of music.
That's what they need to put on the cards for the Elder Scrolls Legends game.
Yeah.
They need to put this music on the cards, and that's the iconic thing about
every
the series,
single card you play down, it goes Frusrata! Every card.
But I think it'd be interesting to see how Skyrim fares after the likes of Witcher 3, but it is something that people want, and it looked really nice.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
It looks lovely. Like, I mean, you get the standard. I mean, I saw a fair bit of the standard reaction of, that's just how it looks on the PC with my mods. Fuck off. Like, it looks lovely, but the big problem for me with Skyrim now is, in a post-Witcher world, I just don't want to. Why would I go back to Skyrim, which I didn't finish because I got bored with halfway through, it's a bit prettier, when The Witcher exists?
But again, there's an audience that have a real emotional attachment to that game.
Oh, for sure. Like, people are still playing it and
this
still
is for
running
them.
mods. Absolutely. Like, you still see Skyrim stories all over the place.
Yeah. But I can't see anybody that's really new to. I'm sure there will be, actually, that people that maybe their first Bethesda game was Fallout 4. And maybe they'll go like, "Oh, I've never played Skyrim," so maybe there is that audience as well. But I just get the feeling that there's a lot of people that really held on to that game,
or like people that want to play it, like, but not on a PS3 because it ran like guff.
Well, I think there's that, but it'll be interesting if it's a success, because they may well move back and there's. Of the love that's out there for Skyrim, I think there's more love for Morrowind, and if they can, take some of the PC mods and tart that up in a similar way that they've done with Skyrim, I think a few people will be more than happy with that.
Yeah.
I think Morrowind's the big one of the Elder Scrolls ones that I've not played, so I'd probably jump at that on the PS4. I'd give that a go.
So we then saw a very impressive CG trailer for Prey. which I was surprised to see that name
subjective.
on the end of it. Yeah, and also, I mean, there was a previous trailer a few years ago which seemed to go down very well.
And some gameplay footage, yeah.
But I thought this... I really liked the trailer. It gave me a little bit of a Soma vibe, I think. And Chris Avalone's attached to it, which is always good.
A bit of a Big Brother in space type thing going on, with kind of playing with... the main character seems to possibly be... subject of an experiment of some kind.
Yeah, was his eye getting redder and redder each time?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. I wasn't paying enough attention and kind of clicked a bit too late to confirm it.
Because there was a machine as well that I think that he put upon his eye, like later on in the trailer.
Yes, like an eye cup with a red ring of LEDs in it. Yeah.
Because Prey for me, it seems like one of those like cult games that everyone wants a sequel to that I never played and I don't have any attachment to, so the trailer didn't do an awful lot for me. But is that due to my unfamiliarity with Prey? Is it even related to the first Prey?
I don't think so.
Well, this is the weird thing. So I heard a lot of complaints about the fact that to be fair, I heard a couple of complaints, and a couple of complaints at the right time can seem like a lot. That this seems completely unrelated to the first, but as far as I understood it, the Prey 2 that was going to be coming out 5 years ago or whenever it was pretty much unrelated anyway. It was same universe, but you weren't playing the same character. The character wasn't involved. It seemed very different. Portals weren't really. You were a bounty hunter, I believe.
It wasn't the first one some sort of Native American lad with dinosaur powers. I think it's
the ability to make portals. Yeah.
Was there a trailer involving like an alien taking apart a bar or something? Was that Prey? Like a guy's in a bar and then like an alien appears in the sky and the bits of the bar start collapsing and falling apart around him. Was that Prey?
That was the opening to the first Prey game.
Okay.
They did a demo and that was it. And you were in a bar and then it started getting peeled apart and you ended up trapped in a prison on an alien ship.
Got it. Half right. I'll take that.
Yeah.
I like the art style. It's clearly Harvey Smith art or his sort of kind of art, but I did like the look of it.
I like the look at the main character.
Yeah,
a bit beardy, a bit eagle features. Okay.
I think the thing for me is if they'd put that trailer on and called it something else, you might have had someone say, "Is this what they've actually turned Prey into?" But probably not. And would it really matter if it wasn't called Prey? It feels a little bit like we dragged this name of a game on so much. And actually the people involved with the development and the few people who got to see bits of it were so excited about it that's what's given the name Prey its cachet, if you like.
It could just be like another connotation, and of the name Prey, and they're just using it in a similar way to like Final Fantasy's being used and stuff. So.
Has it got a subtitle, or is it just Prey?
It's just Prey.
Sorry, very Prey.
Very Prey. It just for now, it's just Prey. It doesn't bother me that it's called Prey particularly because I don't have a massive attachment to the first game or to the sequel that never happened necessarily. But I did think I forget the name of the guy who introduced it. I want to say Jason something or other. I'm probably completely wrong. He did seem very enthusiastic about it, and that's always a good sign when you get someone who's been given a project that they're just thoroughly enamoured with. As for what it is, we've got a trailer that gives us an idea of some kind of setting and tone, but other than that, didn't really give an idea of what the game's going to be necessarily.
I think it's going to be a first-person shooter.
It looks like it might be Bioshocky, but again, along with themes of grappling hooks and crabs, strong themes at this E3 of black
There's
gunk
no way to treat it.
Strong themes of black gunk coming from people's hands, and this one had that as well. So.
It's still not the answer. So we then had Doom, and they spoke a little bit about SnapMap, and they also despicably, like drug dealers, gave out a free demo.
What bastards!
Honestly, we'll come to this in a future show, but forcing us to play it
Seems like an odd time to put out a demo.
Yeah, you'd think it would be out first. But it's actually timed quite well, wouldn't you say, CJ?
I think I get the impression that the early stuff was for their people, and that this is for those folks that
the people are still on the fence. Yeah,
that just didn't think it was for them, because I kind of thought I was one of those, because I got no real connection to the likes of Quake or the early shooters like that, so I just presumed it wasn't for me. But
same here.
I ended up playing the demo on both systems, comparing them and buying it. So well played, Bethesda.
So, yeah.
I've watched a couple of videos of the first 10 minutes of it or so. The first maybe half an hour of it or so, and it's like, it looks fun, but how does it feel to play? That was the worry. And then the demo came out, and it's like you say, you drug pushing bastards.
It's the sort of game I can come home from a day at work and not want to think about anything, and just sit down and just arcade it up like a twat.
Yeah, but on the other side, it's really intense. You've got to pay attention all the time.
Do you think? Because I kind of I can almost liken it to sort of a rhythm action game.
I was going to say, do you get into that kind of zen?
Yeah, I really do sink into relaxing with it, and just right, I can see you across the map. How will I move to you? Twat you in the face, get some points. Get some health, get some out. There's this almost level of ice skating for me across, and I think that's sort of amplified by the movement being as quick as it is as well. But
I get to the end of a combat bit, and then kind of everything unclenches, whoo, okay.
I had that with the demo. I haven't had it with the final game. I've really settled into this level of Although
I've not booted the final game yet, so I'm still...
I have got the chainsaw now, but I've not used it yet.
Do it.
So
rip and tear. So what Doom stuff did they show off at E3?
Really,
it was Snap Map,
wasn't it? And maybe hinting at some more stuff for the season pack.
Yeah.
I mean, multiplayer stuff doesn't do much for me, but for the people that like it, cool. The Snap Map stuff seems kind of cool, isn't there? Isn't someone made a raccoon simulator?
Don't know.
I've seen a fashion show where the monsters come out and twirl, and then they go back into the fashion show booth.
I do know that the demo has coincided with the price drop at retail. So if anybody is playing the demo, most places are selling it between 25 and 30 quid now, which is pretty healthy price.
I took advantage of a price drop. So
we'll go into that in a future show.
I'm planning on Steam Summer Sale is in about a week. I'm planning on looking for any kind of price drop on it there, and I'll snap it up then. Because I definitely want to pop it on my PC and have a little look at it there.
So we boinged then into Elder Scrolls Online, which I had no idea had been a success. Because that's one particularly on console, that I've seen drop in price at a staggering rate.
There was some dubiety about the stats and figures and stuff that were put out, and whether you can manipulate that to look a lot better than maybe it otherwise is.
Or the winning MMO of the
players, year. MMO of the year is your competition
was... Yeah.
What? And 7 million players sounds impressive, but apparently that's 7 million users since launch, and I think they made some comment about the degree to which those players were engaged, that you sort of think, well, are all 7 million logging back in every day, or is it...
How many of them were free trials and stuff?
How many are concurrent users? How many are current active users? But you can get into all sorts of ways of fudging numbers when it comes to game sales, and particularly any that have online services thereafter. So it's...
I know my friend Armin was looking forward to this massively, and then just played it for 2 weeks and just never touched it again. I think he really had to kind of throw himself at that final week to sort of try and coerce himself into seeing whether it was going to be worth continuing.
But if it was doing that badly, then Bethesda would not be bringing it up at their conference. They're obviously relatively, to some degree, happy, and adding Dark Brotherhood will... From my experience of Skyrim, Dark Brotherhood was a pretty significant quest line that was interesting. That's the Assassin's clan.
It's always the fun one.
and they're
also they had that one Tamriel thing where they seemingly opened up the entire game to anybody that was starting it.
Yeah,
that seemed cool.
Yeah, I like that idea. It's not as if you've got to do certain things to get to certain parts of the map. It's like, here's all of it.
They're just going to spring you up to the level that you need to be. Which is
I don't even know if it was
who are stupid level when you can join up with your friends even if you're miles behind them, and it will.
Yeah, I
scale.
don't know
That's
if it was the auto scale or if it was just like opening up the map and maybe getting people talking a little bit
I'm
more.
sure he said something about auto scaling players and dynamic scaling to allow you to. I didn't pay a great deal of attention because I'm not going to play this game and I never have. So, but I'm sure I saw something about that.
So Bethesda then announced that did a little bit of a VR bit.
They announced Blink 182 first of all.
Oh yeah, what was that about?
I think they played the after party.
There was a bit too much of this across. Certainly these two conferences of and we have these games for you to play, you who are watching. Oh, not you at home. Sorry, not you at home. No, I didn't mean you. Don't get excited. It's like
well, it just shows, if nothing else, that whilst they've got all these big releases, at least they can keep their eye on all the small things.
Ooh,
as well.
Older Skyrim.
Don't. I made a bad enough joke. So, virtual reality, Doom, and Fallout 4. Honestly, Fallout 4 in virtual reality, to me, sounds like the sort of game that would get me to play virtual reality.
So, as of the demo that was at E3, Jeff Kanata was trying to detail exactly what it was. You don't move around in the game. You teleport, so you can't walk.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You teleport very short distances. That may be a stopgap, because if they just had people walking, they'd be throwing up everywhere.
Fallout 4 Nightcrawler edition.
But the other thing, so you like, on the way I picture it from what he described on Google Maps, where you get a little arrow as you're on Street View, and you click and it zooms, and you click and it zooms. It sounds like that. And VATS isn't in either.
What?
So it's all.
But like,
fucking bollocks.
But that's like half the game.
That is Fallout 3 and 4 in New Vegas, yeah.
You pause and you look at so you just literally aim in first person and just shoot from a standing point. That doesn't sound like it's done.
That sounds rubbish.
So
CJ's so upset he's walked out of the room.
That was kind of my thought was, well, if you can't, I understand massive technical limitations, etc. Still learning the technology, and I'm sure they are planning to sort of stitch this together in something that will be fantastic. But when I heard Fallout 4 VR, I imagined walking around my living room and exploring and moving around and playing the game as if I was playing the game. But it sounds like it's not that yet. May never be, maybe, who knows. But
hold on, there's a. I'm just going to try and switch my Xbox on. But this is on like, coming through the radio. It's almost like I couldn't really walk anywhere. Hold on. I'm not doing the mic thing. I couldn't really walk anywhere, so I just teleported over to there. But then I saw a town in the distance and thought, I'd move to that bush. Now the music stopped. And it's all falling apart. Professional to the last.
I mean, it seems to me it's like the Jurassic Park quote, isn't it? They were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. Ooh, think on that.
So yeah, work in progress at the moment. The other interesting thing, of course, is that Bethesda are kind of wrapped up in prospective legal action with Oculus over whether or not Oculus was developed from something that was their prototype. I believe that read an article about it a long time ago.
Okay.
Don't know any of the ins and outs, but so basically the question of which headsets, which VR headsets is Fallout coming to, because it sure ain't Oculus. So Vive and PlayStation VR seem like shoo-ins or what, but then we'll get to later in the Microsoft conference, Todd Howard turned up talking tangentially about VR there. So,
and then if anyone's going to partner with Microsoft, it's going to be Oculus.
Seems like it's going to be Oculus, but how do they get round that?
That's not necessarily true.
You're the one who told me that.
Microsoft.
Well, we'll go into this at the Microsoft conference, but I've seen an interview with Big Phil today.
They could put all headsets on there if
Yeah.
they wanted, aside from PlayStation, because they just wouldn't. But they could allow you to pair any headset as long as all you need is USB ports. They could do what they like as far as that's concerned. And in theory, if Bethesda didn't want their VR games on Oculus, they could probably make it so that it only played on Vive on Xbox One or whatever. But we're so far away from VR being on Xbox that at the moment, presumably Fallout and Doom VR are going to be Vive and maybe PlayStation VR games. For now, at least. But
it seems like the sort of thing they want to trumpet. They want to get that big name, like, "Hey, look, it's Fallout 4," like they did with Resi, isn't it? It's a big name, like, "Hey, look, play Fallout 4 in VR right now." Like that will sit people going, "What now? Okay, you're."
I should say as well, Jeff Kanata was talking about his demo, and that's where I've got the information I've got from. So it's all secondhand from one source, which isn't necessarily the best. But he was saying that he enjoyed the heck out of it. He loved the way that they've done VR so far, and can only imagine it getting better. So don't necessarily take what I said as a bad thing, because as I say, the one person I heard talk about it said he had a whale of a time, but then he would because it's VR.
It's funny you should mention Wales, because Dishonored.
Fuck.
What? I'm sure that whale blubber was a power source in the first one.
Yep, whale oil, yes.
Paddy, stop messing about with the Google Doc, you bitch.
I've turned the name of this game to Dishonored Red 2.
Dishonored Sick 2.
I thought Dishonored 2 looked absolutely fucking brilliant. Played the first one on PS3 and really enjoyed it, up to a point where people were going like, "Oh, you're going to get the bad ending, you should really do it with stealth." So I was like, "Oh, okay, then I'll maybe have a go at that," and didn't enjoy it much, and then just left it alone.
See, what you did there is you listened to the internet, and that was your mistake.
Yeah, but I like getting good endings in games, and
Get the ending you deserve.
No, I was far too swayed, but there was this deep-rooted cuntiness from a lot of people that were going like, "Well, you shouldn't be doing it like that. You shouldn't be," and this happens later if you do that. It's like, can I not discover this myself and maybe do a different playthrough afterwards? So I picked up the remaster of Dishonored because it was desperately
Definitive
cheap.
Edition, I think it was called.
Yeah, it was desperately cheap when it came out, but had it still sealed up until seeing this, and loved the art style, loved the sheer amount of ambition that was there, and the ways that you could tackle things differently. I know we saw mainly, is it Emily
Caldwin? Yes.
Yeah. But it was revealed on one of the Easy Allies podcasts that you can actually say no to all superpowers and do it like sword and stealth, which is great. It's really cool.
Great. I'm up for that.
You could in the first one. There was an achievement for I think not using any powers. It was it had I'm sure it was something like that, or not upgrading any powers or something like that. So yeah, just using bare minimum of what you had.
Well, that sounds like to me a different option to come back and play the game through again. It sounds pretty neat. The stuff that was on show, Christ, some of the imagination in the way you could distract people and tie in kills together, and I
liked the domino power. That looked kind of fun, where you tag a bunch of guys, really cool. Do a thing to one of them, and they all feel it.
Especially because of the different ways that you can do that, and whatever status that one person goes into, all of them do. Yeah, that sounds really interesting.
There were a lot of people on the internet after this conference, particularly, that were focusing on, well, considering what's happening in the news, they've showed an awful lot of games where you murder people. It's like, really?
I mean, that is games, though, isn't it? I mean,
I kind of escaped the real world by doing this sort of stuff. I'm sure it was Aisha Tyler was saying that I do stuff in games that I would never do in the real world. It's just it's a level of escape. It's not something I ever tie into a rationale that I'd use in the everyday.
Yeah. You were talking about Battlefield Hardline earlier, and that was very much a game that felt like EA ended up announcing it or showing it off right around the time there were issues of police violence in the real world, and after that point they did not know what to do with that game.
I wonder if the level of kind of jokey cop cliches that have sort of seeped their way, and they're very like heavily TV show type stuff that's come into the hardline that I played through today were maybe some of the additions where they moved it away from the real world and sort of swerved it a little more heavily into telly kind of stuff.
So I think the other thing is, yes, of course, what happened right before E3 started in Orlando is beyond words.
What a tragedy.
But that said, there were reports that some games were pulled from conferences or were changed slightly in terms of representation.
I didn't see that.
So, in particular, there was a leak of what games were going to be in the Ubisoft conference, and it suggested there were going to be two games announced at the end, two new games announced at the end of the conference, and there was only one. There was another thing kind of struck me as odd was that in Battlefield they used the same trailer 3 times. I wonder if that wasn't supposed to be what happened. So stuff like that. I don't know any specifics of stuff. I'm just speculating on what might have happened. But these are all games that have been in development for a long time. They clearly aren't aimed to be insensitive to that. What I would say is, if people genuinely feel, and I do a bit, that there are too many games that are centered around violence being your only way of influencing the world around you, and I have felt that way watching these conferences. I thought there's a lot of, if you're not up for killing people, you might be a little bit shortchanged by this. Well, if those games aren't for you, find the ones that are, buy those, champion those, push those to your friends, talk about them, and they will become the dominant form of video games. It will be about socializing or social interactions or building or creating or anything else that speaks to the human condition outside of violence and killing.
I think in many regards that video games are the new video cassettes. I remember the thing that people sort of held up and blamed were like the likes of Nightmare on Elm Street,
video
Chucky
nasties,
films and stuff.
Before that it was rock music, and after that it was rap music, and
I mean, I'm not insensitive to people who've got those sort of connections. I mean, I've got a friend who, when he was playing Grand Theft Auto 5, took the disc out and snapped it at the torture scene because he knows somebody who was tortured in their own country, and it was just too close to the knuckle for them.
Of course,
and good people watch loads of films that they're. So I can see that regard, but maybe it's just like a level of entitlement on my part. I've got that distance.
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, the wonderful thing about video games is the escape they offer from awful things that are going on in our lives. And sure, it can be frustrating that escape seems to be so heavily dominated by shooters and games that are about the damage done to people. And when you look at the news any day of the week, any time, it can look an awful lot like that's all that goes on in this world. But I think taking it out on a developer or group of developers who are making a game, open a dialogue with them. Absolutely comment on the fact that it's a little disconcerting, but I don't think they can be blamed for providing the games that it seems people want to play.
Yeah. I'd say that. Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the big sellers, it's your AAA shooter is your money man, isn't it?
Is market dictates, and I don't like that. I don't like that as much as anyone else. I really don't. But that's, Call of Duty, Battlefield, Titanfall. These are the games that sell.
I mean, you choose your flavours if they're not for you.
And there are certainly games that cut closer to the quick in terms of asking you to purposefully engage in beyond immoral behaviour, and some of those Manhunt, for example, are some of the most interesting games I've played. I'm not saying they are representative of high art or the best of humanity, but they can be interesting in pushing.
Yeah, and you have that conversation with yourself as well. I mean, it's a similar sort of thing where I will see various portions of the internet like react against like certain characters in games or certain opinions, and it's like, as an author, you're allowed to write an arsehole. Somebody's allowed to have an arc of character and get to somewhere at the end of it which is different or changed. But a lot of people will jerk their knees at the first instance, and somehow it's a personal reflection of the person that's making it, or the person that's writing it, or the person that's creating that film, and it's not the case.
That's entirely antithetical to what art is. Yeah, absolutely, or any kind of creation. But sorry, I just lost my train of thought a bit. I think there is something to be said for glorification of violence after looking at E3 and when E3 happened to be right after just a horrific act by unimaginable evil, basically, is the only way I can put that.
Oh yeah.
There is something to be said for looking at all of our media and wondering if, and that goes for not just creative media, but all sorts of media, including news channels and papers, etc. And wondering if glorification of violence and violent behaviour and violent attitudes isn't a problem, because that's something very different to depicting that behaviour. The actual glorification of it, and the notion that it goes way back to films and TV for years and years and years and years, way before I was born, that devil may care attitude with a cigarette hanging out your mouth and a gun in your hand is kind of still considered cool.
Well, I mean, I recently we covered on the podcast a film called Contamination, which was a video nasty that was banned in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's daft as balls, absolute daft as balls. But people were being overprotective of that. I remember reading about the Parker novels, and that he was somewhat of a villain that was always getting away with it, to the point where Donald Westlake, I think it was saying that the novels were being passed around in prisons as inspiration for having another go when you got out, and that's why he put him in prison at a certain point and had the shit kicked out of him. To kind of, so there's always variations of this that happen, and even different sensibilities. I remember my mum saying that people were fainting in the cinema when they saw The Birds, and the only way, like when I saw that years later, the only way I'd have fainted, it was out of boredom.
Sir, how
Exorcist,
dare you?
Same thing.
What? No. Yeah, Exorcist was. I've not seen The Exorcist, but I know.
I watched it and it was supposed to be scared, but I laughed the whole way through. I thought it was a comedy. Yeah, I thought it was funny. The only film that ever made me pass out was Saw 3, and that's only because of the blooming strobe lights.
We've drifted.
We have.
But we've also drifted to the end. See how I close that off.
That was good.
So yeah, that's
Bethesda final thoughts then. What do you think of the show?
Blah, 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 blah.
Bethesda final thoughts.
I thought it entertained me across the board. It entertained me, but I really like the look of the tone setting that we've had of Prey, but Dishonored 2 just really, really sold me. I thought it looked lovely. Those were my big thoughts. Also, I do kind of fancy having a pop with that Skyrim remaster, even if it was just that music that drew me in, because it was in my head for like days afterwards.
What about you,
James, sir?
James, yes.
The two games that I've got asterisks next to on my list of games from Bethesda are indeed Prey and Dishonored 2. And with Prey, it's very much more. I think I tweeted, haven't we been here before, or words to that effect, of we've seen CG trailers before for Prey, and they never came to fruition. So yes, that looked interesting, but I'll I'm not going to hold my breath just on because we may be talking in 2 years about the fact that it no longer exists. And I was reassured by friend of unnamed individual that no, the game is definitely in development, does exist, is a real thing, and that gave me hope, because I thought that looked interesting. Whether it is a reboot, sequel, spiritual successor, just a brand name, whatever, that game, as much as or as little as we saw of it, looked interesting to me. It looked like it might be an interesting concept. And Dishonored 2, I certainly had issues with the first one, but I thought Harvey Smith came on and talked, in contrast to some of the devs we saw at EA, who talked very passionately about what they wanted their game to be. Harvey Smith did exactly that as well, but then backed it up with a heck of a lot of substance. I thought that game looked fantastic.
Yeah, it came across very sincerely as well. I think that everybody on that conference did. Yeah. There was the guy with the sort of French accent that was presenting the Arcane stuff as well, who was double into things.
And yeah, I just thought Dishonored 2 looked great, and I can't wait to play as Emily. I kind of feel like I've been there, done that with Corvo, and I'd like to see a different set of powers and see if I play that. I played the first one, I will play this one as sneakily and as non-lethally as possible, even if that isn't to everyone's tastes. It's just
seen the way you play Metal Gear.
Well, exactly. Yeah,
you man with the patience of a god.
I'm curious to see Cara Ellison's writing in full effect as well.
Ditto, yeah,
very, very much, and came across well in the stuff that we saw. So very, very, very.
I think the difficult thing, and it's always worth remembering, is getting decent writers in doesn't necessarily mean that their decent writing comes through in the game in the way that they would have intended it. So I can think of great writers that have written games where, for me, some of the worst stuff was the story, because it just didn't work. And obviously that writing around gameplay that already exists must be a nightmare for any writers. So it would be I saw Cara Ellison on Giant Bomb after show day 2 she was on, talking about this stuff and talking about the fact that she enjoyed working on the game and working with Harvey Smith, and obviously can't wait to see how the game turns out. So likewise, very interested to see.
Okay. See, for me, like, Bethesda hit a weird note. For me, because
C-sharp?
That was the one. Yeah. As someone who doesn't hold an awful lot of attachment to a lot of the properties, I enjoy them, but like, they're not my A game. Like, for me, Bethesda lacked that kind of big hitter. All the games they showed looked fine. They looked competent. They looked like they were working. They were interesting. There was good ideas. But for me, like, there wasn't the game that was like, fucking look at me. Like, they didn't do the thing last year with Fallout going, look at me, I'm Fallout 4. They didn't do the Skyrim thing a few years ago. I was like, look, it's Skyrim. Look how good this looks.
You didn't get that from Dishonored 2?
No, because I've not played Dishonored 1, to be fair. And it looked cool, but it didn't quite have the attachment for me. It looks cool, but like, I know I'm not going to get to it for a very long time.
Can we say as well that I thought it was really cool that if you pre-order the digital Dishonored 2, that you get Dishonored?
Oh, that's decent.
Yeah,
good idea.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's the sort of thing I'd be interested in, but then I'm not going to pre-order a digital game.
Yeah, but I think that when the definitive edition of the first game came out on current gen, it was, I'm sure I picked mine up for about 14 quid new. So it must be knocking around the £10 mark second hand.
Oh,
so,
definitely, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, worth doing.
It's easy enough to get in,
doing.
But yeah, like I say, for me at the moment, Bethesda, I enjoy the things they do, but I've cooled off on Skyrim. I'm not hot on Fallout at the moment. Doom, I'm very excited for, but I've not played the damn thing yet. But I bought it I suppose on the strength of that show. Tried the demo, loved the demo, bought the game. So I mean, I guess they've done well.
Who knew that could be a thing?
Who knew?
Demos.
But yeah, for me, didn't have the hit for me. It was a solid 6. Not as, I mean, it smashed EA's. Let's be fair, but didn't. It's not got quite the same spark that I think shows that we're going to get to later had.
So, is there anything in Bethesda's back catalogue or anything you think they could have done to wow you like that, or do they just not have the games for it?
Elder Scrolls 6 would have been the one. I would have been excited for that, I think. But
so when Skype had a hiccup earlier, I think what I was saying basically is it's just too early. They take years over these games.
I tell you what, I would have been excited to see a game they published a while ago, Wet 2. I would have been excited for Wet 2. I fucking loved Wet.
Funny you should say that. I was just thinking, would something like a Wet that didn't do that well, and wasn't necessarily received that well, but kind of was a great game to a significant number of people.
Yeah,
would that have been something just a bit more off the wall?
Yeah. Like I loved that. That was my kind of like. I really thought it was fun. Those odd little weird games that the sort of game that you rent.
Yeah, but I think in the same way as we said about like Dead Space finding its audience when it dropped under £10, I know a heck of a lot of people that picked up Wet when it hit that sort of margin as well. So maybe there's a fan base out there from people that just thought, yeah, that looks alright, I'll pick it up, and then played it and went, yeah, that was alright, I got my $5 worth.
Yeah. Oh, here you go. I've brought up Bethesda's wiki page with their properties that they publish. They published the Call of Cthulhu game. I'd have been interested in that if they'd have showed that. I never played it, but if they said, oh, look, we're going to remaster that for next gen, that would have been like, I've always wanted to play that. Like, yeah, give me that. But yeah, Bethesda make good games. I think I've just fallen out of love with them a bit in recent years. Like, if you'd have asked me the same question 2 or 3 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, Fallout and the Skyrim and all of that, yeah, like really excited. But I've just fallen out of love with them a little bit. Not to say that it wasn't a good show. It was a solid show. It just didn't have that thing to take it just onto that next level. But Dishonored does look cool. I will get to it eventually. And they did make me buy Doom, so I guess well done.
Yeah, they did their job. They got 1.5 games out of you, basically, which is more than you would have thought.
So stick your 6 up your arse. You've spent £30.
Fine, I'll bump it up to 7.5. I'll add the 1.5 on.
Right, so next time we're going to be talking Xbox, which is going to be interesting because we have England, Germany and Switzerland commenting on that podcast. Right, so see you next time. Hope you enjoyed the first one, which I'm about to put up now. Hope you enjoyed this one as well, and then we'll have Sexy Time with Phil Spencer coming up after this. Goodbye now.
Goodbye now.
Bye.
That's staying in.
Sorry, it just struck me about 2 seconds too late that you were probably waiting for me to say bye. Don't know why.